A new Fox News poll suggests President Trump is flailing on an issue that has become central to voters, the economy. The poll shows his approval over his handling of the economy hit a new low at just 38%. An overwhelming 76% of Americans now view the economy negatively. Only 25% view it as good or excellent. And while Trump loves blaming Biden for economic woes, most voters, 62%, are blaming Trump directly. Voters were also broadly critical of Trump's tariffs, which have been key to his economic agenda. 63% of respondents say they disapprove of how the Trump administration is handling them. Joining us now, the power couple, Betsey Stevenson and Justin Wolfers, are both professors of economics and public policy at the University of Michigan. Justin and Betsey, thanks so much for joining us. So, Justin, I want to start with you. People are mad at Trump about the economy, but they hated the economy last year, too, as you may recall, under Biden. So I guess my question is, to what extent is Trump actually to blame for the things that people hate about the economy right now?
So some of the stuff he's not obviously to blame. The affordability crisis, we all talk about it now, but it's not that different than it was 6 months ago. And, you know, he made it worse. Tariffs aren't exactly going to help. Getting rid of the immigrant labour force isn't exactly going to help. I think the thing that's really particularly painful is when he looks you in the eye and says, I now understand the affordability problem. It's gone away, prices are falling. And like looking you in the eye with that sort of bald-faced, I just feel like he's not seeing my pain, frankly.
Do you think that Donald Trump, you have worked in a White House as an economic aide, and so you know how quick the current White House in power is to absorb the blame, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. And now it does seem that it had been Trump's strength in polling the economy, and now it does seem to be flipping a bit to Democrats. Do you think that this is a new direction for Democrats and they can start to dominate messaging here?
I mean, I think this opens a huge opportunity for Democrats because, you know, whether we're looking at last year or even 5 years ago or 10 years ago, Republicans usually have the upper hand in polling when it comes to asking people, who do you trust on the economy? Who can manage the economy? And it's that, you know, the Republicans have this, well, they're businessmen kind of thing going. And so everyone's like, yeah, you can trust them. They're businessmen. And Trump sailed into office on being the best businessman in America. And so he's going to solve this affordability crisis. And then he made it worse. And you turn on the TV and they tell you Trump put tariffs on coffee and that's why your coffee's more expensive. I went to the grocery store and I looked at a bag of coffee and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, if I'm having that feeling, everybody's having that feeling. And they're able to tie it straight back to him because he put the tariffs on coffee, even though actually some of the reason the price of coffee is up has nothing to do with him at all, but has to actually do with like things going on in the agricultural sector. So, you know, you get the blame for stuff. And he's getting it, but it's easier to get the blame when you're actually doing something that's making it worse.
Well, the other side of the cost of living crisis that is so potent when I talk to voters and then even just my own friends in their 30s, you know, trying to figure out if they might be able to buy their first home someday, maybe not loving their job, but unable to find another job. Maybe they haven't gotten a raise in the last 3 years. Justin, can you help me understand what is going on in the job market right now? Because the perception when you talk to people is if you are laid off, you are screwed right now.
Yeah.
And if you have a job, you better hold on to it for dear life.
Yeah. Well, sometimes perception's reality. And so we've had the latest numbers, the latest employment report. A lot of people said very positive things about it, but there were two things that jumped out at me. First of all, unemployment right now is at a 4-year high. Really worth thinking about that. And except for the pandemic, it would be an 8 or a 9-year high. This is the single index that's probably the best description of how does the labour market feel to people out there. And the other part of that is it's a story that hasn't been told, but unemployment is and has been rising in the United States. It's risen slowly enough that it hasn't attracted much attention. A tenth of a point here, a tenth of a point there. Very soon, though, you're talking about very big changes in people's realities.
Well, especially for younger people, right? I mean, there are tons of stories, and the data seems to bear this out. I mean, the data are old, to be clear, because we've had this shutdown. But there is some suggestion, maybe because of AI, we don't know, that younger people graduating into the labor market are struggling.
So I think the really important data point is the number of job openings. And you know, people were complaining about the economy under Biden, but we had multiple openings per unemployed worker. That's a pretty good market to be looking for a job in. There's, 6-7 times as many jobs as there are people looking for it. Now, we have fewer openings than we have people looking for jobs. That's a terrible market to be looking for a job. So that's why people are telling you they feel like this is, if you lose your job, you're in trouble. Well, you are in trouble because you are going to be fighting for jobs that lots of other people are also applying to. And that just feels really uncomfortable. It's very competitive. It's hard to find the right match. And so that whole thing is slowing down the dynamism in the US economy. And as sclerotic rather than dynamic economy, it feels scary.
And a lot of the voters that I've found that are having these sort of existential reactions to this moment, they're higher income tech workers, finance people. I mean, people who had jobs at Amazon and Google. A lot of big kind of like blue chip companies have announced these massive layoffs. And so some of the people who you might not think when times get rough are, hunkering down and getting a little worried. They're getting worried.
Yes.
Well, when the price of living is so out of control in a city like New York, you see how Zoran Mamdani actually was able to have policy proposals that never would have been palatable to some upper income voters, but they voted for it because even they are struggling. So if you're back at the White House, or you're at the White House for the first time.
As a guest.
Yes.
I'm there to see my
what are
partner.
the affordability policy proposals that actually would make a difference in this crisis? Because you hear rent control being floated around. That, in my opinion, isn't going to do anything.
Well, I think you do have to tackle housing. And we have to, the number one way to tackle housing is to build more housing. And so you got to, tackle some of the regulations that are getting in the way of building more housing, create incentives, at the state and local level to make sure you're just getting more housing. People are also struggling with the rising cost of insurance, whether we're talking about auto insurance or homeowners insurance. I think we got to start thinking about how can we bring down the price of insurance? What do we need to change, particularly again in regulations in that market to bring down costs? And then of course there's also health insurance markets. So you've got these big costs that really matter to people in terms of like their daily living, and they're really out of control.
Oh, to some extent, I would add that tariff policy is making some of these things worse, right? If it's more expensive to replace the broken part in your car, that's going to increase your auto insurance rates.
Step one, knock off the tariff.
Yeah.
All right. Step two, allow immigrants to stay in the country so that employers can get the labour they need to get stuff to market for us. So yeah, absolutely. That's where we start.
Well, next we're going to talk about health insurance and the role that is playing in this crisis too. Betsey Stevenson and Justin Wolfers stay with us.